But right now, I'm so sorry that I've reached this point where I reckon that I have to say this, but I feel like I do. I'm seeing the writing on the wall. I follow these stories out of the White House and the tragic events that we've seen, not just this week, but for the last several weeks. And I think drastic and important measures have to be taken by the President of the United States to make sure that he stands up for the children of this country, stands up for common sense, that he stands up, and he has to make an example, sadly, of what's going on in the House that he occupies right now, because it's happening right there under his nose. Of course, I'm talking about the string of violent attacks led by Major, the Biden family's rescued German Shepherd. We've talked about this, and it's not necessarily Major's fault, but something still has to be done. It's time for serious executive action regarding not just Major, but this growing plague of attacks by assault dogs in our country. The president has to use his executive powers and ban these dogs of war for the sake of our children. I mentioned it's for the children, right? Now, I know. This might be offensive to you. I get it. You think you have the right to own a dog. But nobody needs this kind of dog, right? You can own a dog without getting this kind of dog. Why do you need an assault dog? This dog of war. This very scary, mean-looking dog that clearly is much more ferocious and powerful and harmful than just any dog. Listen, I know how Americans are. You can still satisfy this bizarre need to have a dog, or in some cases, multiple dogs. I've seen stories of people, mostly in those country areas, the flyover states, where we don't go, you and I. No, we just fly from here to San Francisco. But in all those states underneath, there are some people who not only have multiple dogs, including assault dogs, they would have what I would describe as an arsenal of dogs. Well, you can go ahead and satisfy that obsession that you seem to have, as all Americans. Nowhere else in Western civilization, in the Western world, in the democratized countries on this planet, nowhere else is this bizarre need to surround yourself with all of these dogs, especially these assault dogs, the dogs of war. We're the only country. We stand alone there. It's so embarrassing. But fine, go ahead. You want to exercise your right to own a dog. You can own a dog with a less scary or dangerous-looking version of the dog, right? If you have to have a dog, get yourself a poodle or a Cocker Spaniel, a Corgi. They don't look as scary as an assault dog. They don't look as scary as a German Shepherd does. It's interesting. I was doing research for this monologue, and I stumbled across, this very important and intellectual argument that then Vice President Biden made with regard to the fact that you don't need an assault weapon. Now, of course, this is very different, but I think the analogy holds with regard to these horrible, destructive assault dogs. Here was the president during that debate.
If you want to protect yourself, get a double-barrel shotgun.
There you go.
Have the shells, a 12-gauge shotgun, and I promise you, I told my wife,
he promises
we live in an area that's wooded and somewhat secluded.
He's making a promise.
So, Jill,
here.
If there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony here, or walk out, put that double-barrel shotgun and fire 2 blasts.
There you go.
Outside the house. I promise you, who's ever coming in is not going to. You don't need an AR-15.
He promised his wife that this would work. Now, as Chris Plant so dutifully points out, the logic doesn't completely hold because he's got a double-barrel shotgun and he's taking 2 blasts. And as horrible and despicable and evil as some home invader at the Biden household might be there, God knows what they're interested in doing to Dr. Jill, God forbid, or anyone else in the house. As terrible as those human beings who might be invading the Biden house might be, I'm pretty sure they know how to count it, too. And, and again, Chris Plant points this out brilliantly. A shotgun is a pretty distinctive sound. When you hear those 2 blasts from the shotgun, I'm guessing with the ability to count to 2, you recognize that Dr. Jill is now standing there on the balcony with an empty gun. And by the way, loading a shotgun, I mean, some of you have a lot more practice than I do. Maybe, I'm guessing you have more practice than Dr. Jill does. Yeah, it's not the easiest thing, not the quickest operation. I'm thinking if you go out and take those 2 blasts of the shotgun, and now you're standing there basically unarmed, it's going to take a bit for you to reload. The criminal might have a chance in this scenario. But the most important part of this, as he is so helpfully suggesting what kind of gun you should be allowed to have, the shotgun in this case, the most important part comes right at the end there.
I promise you, who's ever coming in is not going to... You don't need an AR-15.
You don't need an AR-15. Thank you. Buy yourself, what's the dog version of a shotgun? Okay, how about buy yourself a really noisy terrier? They got that yippy little bark. That's going to protect you from any manner of danger. You don't need an assault dog. Now, I know it sounds like I'm exploiting these recent tragic events, but, you shouldn't let an opportunity like this go to waste. We've got to build momentum, and we've got to implement some common sense dog safety measures and remove the blight of assault dogs from our society. It truly is an embarrassment that our country has this obsession with assault dogs. And you know what? Let's face it. Okay, people who insist on surrounding themselves with these dogs of war, they're clearly overcompensating for something. They don't need to endanger the rest of us to just feed their own psychological inadequacies. They don't need to scare all of us with these very mean-looking dogs. Have you noticed how mean? They're scary-looking. You don't need that. Someone argued with me about this the other day as I was formulating my idea, and they said, because it's so obvious in my mind that we now have a need for common sense dog safety measures, they said to me, you're more likely to be bitten by a Cocker Spaniel than by an assault dog like a German Shepherd. By the way, they didn't use the term assault dog, and some reason they don't even like the word. It's like, how do you define assault dog? I know it when I see it. A German Shepherd is an assault dog. Don't try to tell me what language I can and can't use. But anyway, the point is, you're more likely to be bitten by a Cocker Spaniel than a German Shepherd. I do love it when they throw all their fancy facts in my face. Listen, I know from extensive law enforcement studies that Americans are now more likely to die from knives, from hammers, from clubs, even attacks with people's feet. I kid you not. You are more likely to die from an attack with someone using their feet than they are to die from an attack with a rifle. See, but that doesn't stop politicians, the media, pop culture, professional athletes, your woke brother-in-law, all from insisting on a ban of rifles they think are mean-looking. Right? They're on the side of the angels on that issue, and I'm on the side of the angels for my call to ban assault dogs. Stop trying to defend this ridiculous notion of the right to own whatever kind of four-legged mammal you want for self-defense. I mean, let's play this out. Why stop at canines? Why don't you just keep a grizzly bear or a lion for self-defense, right? That's as crazy as having a tank or a howitzer or an F-16. You don't have a right to have those things. You think you have a right to have any four-legged mammal? Clearly, there's no right to own any beast to protect yourself. Frankly, I'm tired of making my argument. It's incumbent on you to defend your right to own these assault dogs. You need to explain to me why you need a dog like this. Get one of the dogs I decide you can have. You don't have a right to tell me what kind of dog you have. You need to defend your right to have an assault dog. Especially considering this latest biting rampage that's gone on in the White House itself. If we can't protect people in the White House from assault dogs, how am I supposed to protect myself and my children from your assault dogs? Did I mention this is for the children? See, you're not thinking of the children. Children are terrified of assault dogs when they see them. They're fine with the Pekingese. I've seen it. Pekingese and also the Pomeranians. Get yourself a Pomeranian. You don't need one of these dogs of war. I know what the next... See, I've already thought through all of your arguments. why should all responsible dog owners be punished and have their rights diminished because of a handful of irresponsible and reckless criminal dog owners who don't take their responsibility seriously? Listen, that is a powerful argument. I mean, clearly, what we're seeing right now in the White House with this assault dog, this is a dude in his 70s who wanted to run for president and 3 years ago decided to get himself a badass-looking German Shepherd to make him look virile and tough. And, of course, focus groups insisted that the dog had to be a rescue dog so the media could write fawning articles about the guy in his 70s and the dog and the virtue. And boy, he looked tough and virile with that assault dog. Have you noticed all the cover stories written about these dogs? All of the glowing. There have been more glowing features on these dogs in the White House, the assault dogs, the dogs of war. There have been more features written about the dogs than we had written about our First Lady, Melania, for 4 years. This is what and they recognized that the media was going to behave this way. And then, of course, once the dude who's now pushing 80 got the gig in the White House, turns out, oh, hey, maybe he doesn't have the time to really be a responsible dog owner and give the dog the care and attention he deserves. And it's not like you can take your assault dog and lock your assault dog in a dog safe and only bring it out when you need it. No, actually, they require constant care. So now you have a neglectful assault dog owner who's ultimately responsible for the actions of this neglected dog and the reckless and dangerous bites that the neglected dog is exhibiting there in the White House. Biden's responsible, not the dog. I get that. And certainly all the other responsible assault dog owners in America who take their dog ownership seriously, they're not responsible. But sadly, you've missed the point. A movement is a movement. Facts, logic, rights, those get in the way. What's your last argument? Dogs don't bite people? People who own dogs bite people? Yeah, see, that one doesn't work at all. The dogs really are biting the people. So I'm sorry. I am throwing down with this, and we are going to get it done. It's time, finally, to draw the line here. If we can just prevent one biting in this country as a result of our efforts in banning assault dogs, then it will have been worth it. No more dogs of war. You have no right to it. We will tell you what kind of dog you can have if you insist on having a dog, but no assault dogs. It's common sense dog safety. And after all, who could possibly disagree with that?